Hello, friends. I'm Rosie Acosta, your host and guide on this journey to self-discovery and radical love. I've walked a path filled with challenges. Growing up in East LA during the '92 LA riots, it left me searching for meaning, for mentors, for a way to truly understand the purpose of life. But you know what I found? The power of conversation. As a first-gen Mexican American, these conversations became my compass, offering insight, support, and an endless amount of inspiration. So I decided to create a space where we can share these conversations with you, our community. And that's how the Radically Loved podcast was born. Join me as we dive into topics like mindfulness, spirituality, self-love, and the keys to overall healthy living. I'm joined by my dear friend, fellow author, producer, and teacher, Tessa Tovar.
Hi, I'm Tessa, and I'm grateful to be part of this community because it teaches me so much about what it means to be human. Ever since I was a little one, I was always asking my dad the deeper questions in life. Why are we here? What happens when we are gone? What is the purpose of life? I love this show because I get to ask the questions that cut right to the meaning of life. I've learned that no matter how much we want the path to be clear or straightforward, it rarely is. And that is actually part of the beauty that creates a radically loved life.
Please do us a favor, share the episodes you love with your friends, and leave us a review. Together, we'll learn how to create a life that's truly, deeply, radically loved. Let's begin. Summer.
Happy summer. Can you believe it's mid-August?
No, I cannot. It really is, Chris. That was my tea, by the way, hitting to the table. I don't know if you
Hi, tea.
heard that. It has been quite swiftly moving.
Just moving by.
I feel like it was just January and now it's August.
Yeah.
Or I don't actually know when we're launching. It's August.
Mid-August. It is
okay.
August. Yeah.
Okay, but just for the purposes of transparency, today is the beginning of August.
Yeah. Day one. Which to me always feels like I always kind of go through this existential crisis of summer's almost over. Oh my God.
I know. Well, here's what I go through typically. And it's so funny because I was looking back I'm changing the light. I was going back through old, some writings that I have and stuff. And I was looking at 2021 and then 2023 around this time, like writings, because I try and write every day, like my little morning musings. And around this time, it's always the same. All of a sudden, when July's over, I feel like I'm officially done with summer and I want the fall. Especially you start seeing all like the pumpkin lattes, you start to see all the Halloween stuff, you start to see all the colors change. I get really excited. I mean, I don't want the summer to be over and we still have literally an entire month of summer to go, but also I think it's just living in Los Angeles. It's always so hot. And in the valley, it's so hot. And so I'm like just ready for some clouds and a little bit of cozy sweater weather.
I love cozy sweater weather. Yeah. We've been having what will probably be the new normal. It's unseasonably hot. I mean,
I heard
upper 90s, 100s in the Pacific Northwest, which freaks me out. And I know we've talked about this before, but it just seems like it's the new norm.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, what have you been doing? I've been wanting to ask you. I've been stalking your Instagram stories, and I saw this new hobby that you took up, and I want to talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Tell us about sailing.
Sailing is the new hobby. It's my love.
First, did you have experience before?
Yes, I've been kind of recreationally sailing once or twice a month since 2020. So it's been in my life for a while now, several years. However, I got really into it. It was funny. I can't remember what the name of this movie is. I should look it up. It's about a girl. This is a true story. She sails around the world in her little pink sailboat. The sailboat's name is Pink, actually. And I believe she's from Australia. This was maybe a decade ago now that this happened. But she was 15 years old. She was the youngest person to solo sail around the world successfully in her own boat. So that means no one's coming to help her. She's not coming to port. She's literally sailing around the world single-handed, which means by herself. And she did it. I mean, I think it took her like 3 attempts. Anyway, so I watched this movie. The next day, I'm not kidding, Rosie, I go to this business, which is a local business in my area. It's 10 minutes from my house. And it's a sailing company. They teach sailing lessons. They teach people how to sail, and they sell sailboats. And I approached this person and I was like, I really want to learn how to sail. If you ever need help with anything, just let me know. And like, I'm here to learn how to sail.
Okay.
And months went by.
Okay.
And then I got an email from this guy and he's like, well, we could use a little bit of help around the office, like a day or 2 a week. And I was like, okay. And so I started to do that, and I get to basically go sailing for 1 or 2 days a week. And then this March, my lovely husband bought me a sailboat for my birthday, which sounds crazy. It sounds crazy to say that, but literally it's cheaper than buying yourself a new laptop, because it's just a tiny little, very manual sailboat. It's only 20 feet long. And so this is a particular style of sailboat it's called a Ranger. And that style of sailboat is fast. It's for people usually use it to race sailboats. So for me, it's been a lot to learn how to manipulate it without just going around in circles in the water and making a fool of myself, or like keeling all the way over.
But you're like by yourself. How do you do? I guess I just feel like I don't trust myself enough to keep myself afloat.
It's scary. I've had moments where I'm like, I'm going to die right now in the Columbia River. It is definitely scary.
I mean, what do you do when it gets super choppy?
Yeah, I just pull the sails down. And I turn the motor on, and then
so it has a motor in it. It's not just
every sailboat you have to be able to get out of the marina.
Oh, got
and
it.
You have to be able
to
power yourself out of a situation that too choppy water. You get overpowered by the wind, which has happened to me multiple times in this little 20-foot sailboat.
Oh, wow.
Because it's meant to go fast, so it's very easy to get overpowered by the wind.
Yeah.
But it's such I can't even tell you, the closest thing that I can liken it to is similar to the feeling I have when I dance.
Oh,
it's like flying, because you turn off the motor. It's quiet. The only thing that is powering this boat, moving you forward, is the wind and the current. Depending on which direction the current is coming and which direction the wind is going is going to depend on your speed. And so it kind of feels like flying. It's I don't know.
Have you ever flown before?
No, I mean, not just like in a regular old commercial airplane.
Next year it'll be like, I just bought a small little airplane.
I'm a pilot now.
That's amazing. It's so interesting. I'm curious what your answer is, because as I'm hearing you say this, all I keep thinking about is, you go on these epic backpacking trips by yourself, and you're sailing by yourself. Like, where does that come from? Is it just something that you feel like you need to do on your own? It requires a lot of self-confidence, I think, to be able to do those things. Self-reliance.
Yeah. Where does that come from? I think for me, I've always been drawn to a challenge, to say the least. I love to do the thing that scares me to the extent that I'm like, I can learn how to do that skill set safely. Yeah, it'll be scary. There will be moments where I might question why I'm doing this thing and feel like I want to get out of it. But I know that if I study and I practice enough, I can do it intelligently and safely. And it's just a matter of doing it over and over again. I mean, learning how to read the wind, how to feel the wind. It's very, very intuitive. For me, it feels intuitive. But then there are moments where I'll freak myself out, of course, whether it's backpacking or sailing, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. And then next week I'm back out there.
That was gonna be my question. It's like, for me, I mean, I don't really have anything to compare it. I mean, I like extreme sports, and I, like snowboarding and wakeboarding, and doing, it's like I have my motorcycle endorsement. I like
Cool.
I like speed, I like things that, are exhilarating, but every time I do something like that, I freak out a little bit, right? There's a little bit of like something can go wrong, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I just feel like with things like going on my own or doing things by myself, I mean, because when I'm, you're snowboarding, I'm typically with like Tori or my brother-in-law, or, if we're doing any other kind of extreme sport, I'm going to call it, I'm with someone, it's not just like I'm there by myself. So I think that that's really something so unique and special. And ever since I've known you, you've always been so, confident in that autonomy where you could just say, oh, I'm going to go do this. But yeah, I guess you answered my question, do you have those moments of, oh shit, like this is, or I'm never doing this again. Oh, well, my point was that, in the moments where I've had that feeling of the exhilaration turned to fear, turned to anxiety, or I've hurt myself, like I've broken bones, but I've never broken a bone doing a sport or doing anything like this, but I have hurt myself really badly. And there was a moment in time, I think it was right after I came back from the yoga tour in 2017, where I said to Tori, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I think I'm retiring. I can't do these extreme sports. Like, I feel like my body's just not recovering as quickly. And, that's not the case. I still put myself in those positions. But let's talk about my health journey, okay? Because we talked about it last time we chatted, and I did get a couple of people emailing asking, like, what are you doing? Like, what's the program you're following, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not exactly going to share yet the program I'm doing, how I'm doing it, because I feel like I just want to make sure it works first. I want to be able to have a full experience before I start, talking about what's worked, what's not worked. I think right now, as you and I know, the thing I've been incorporating every week is fasting, like doing a water fast. It's a water fast, but I'm still drinking tea, and, you can have sparkling water, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm doing a 30. So this was inspired by research that I've done, and Dr. Mindy Peltz, who is a really well-known. So most of this was inspired by Dr. Mindy Peltz. She's a best-selling author. She's a keynote speaker. She's a nutritionist. She's helped like thousands of people get healthy, and she wrote a book, best-selling book, How to Fast Like a Girl. And she's just so brilliant. I think she is so innovative with how she's talking about health, how she's talking about food, how she's talking about hormones, all of those topics that are obviously affecting us, and they affect women eventually, or now. So for those of you who maybe are just tuning in, I went into early menopause. I went into perimenopause when I was 36, and went into full menopause, and now I'm postmenopausal, and I just turned 41. So my issues with the hormones were trying to figure out, like, if I was going to do HRT, if I wasn't, how I was going to navigate the mental fuckery of it all. I mean, that's literally the best way for me to describe it. The depression, the brain fog, the weight gain, the insomnia, the hot flashes, the low libido, vaginal dryness, like all of the things, like completely, it hit really, really strongly. And so I think it's I think it's really important for just us as women to learn as much as we can to understand that everybody is different. I mean, you know this from IIN, since you went to IIN as well. It's about bio-individuality. One person's food is another person's poison, and it's one of those things that you just need to learn how to navigate. And so at the beginning of this year, I decided to really, take this on. I've been struggling for the last 4 years trying to figure out a system, and doctors and acupuncturists and herbs and all of the things that I've tried, even conventional medicine. I tried everything. And I'm finally at a point now with the doctor that I'm working with, Dr. Shepard, who I posted on my Instagram. She just, it's like, get yourself a hot female doctor that is an expert and knows what she's doing and can really help you. So ever since I've been working with Dr. Shepard, she really has guided me in a very compassionate and loving way. Remember we talked about this last time about showing up at the doctor's office and then feeling like, oh, I forget all the questions. Somebody that, is a woman that understands the female system and has gone through menopause herself, like just somebody that really understands you and can see you, I feel like is always the best avenue to take. I think it's important for us to do homework. Unfortunately, we are so dependent on going to the doctor and the doctor telling us what is going on or giving us a pill, and I feel like that's just not, from what we've learned in the last couple of years, it's just not helpful for a lot of people, and it wasn't for me. And so I'm really grateful and glad that I was able to head into this health journey and find what worked for me. And so I'm saying all of that to say that the work of Dr. Mindy Pelz has really inspired me, and I've seen so many changes in my body, in my mind, like my whole system, doing some of the exercises and changing some of my behaviors to what she suggests. There's so much brilliant information, and Tess and I are trying to get Dr. Mindy Pelz on the show. So hopefully we can make that happen. And we can have her, talk to us more about this process. But I did my first ever 36 minute. Imagine 36 minutes easy.
Oh man, yeah.
Right?
Sign me up.
Me too. Like I cannot eat for 36 minutes. It's easy. But I did my first 36 hour. Actually, I did more than 36 hours. I did 44 hour fast. Why I went over 36, just because I was wanting to go to 48, but I realized I'm like, what am I trying to prove? There are so many benefits for your body. There are so many benefits to fasting for 36 hours, according to Dr. Mindy Pelz. She's done so many studies. And again, this is the basis of a lot of her work. She talks about how research has showed that when people follow this pattern for a week, they have greater weight loss. They also found that those who did a 36-hour fast have fewer cravings and found changes in the microbiome. And so if you have studied or know anything about the microbiome, like the microbiome in our stomach is so vital to our digestion, how we break food down, how we absorb nutrients. And it really is something that I'm becoming passionate about and learning so much, and just fascinated by how that gut microbiome affects our brain, how it affects everything else. And so anyway, I'm not the expert here, so I don't want people to just listen to this podcast and be like, I'm going to do a 36-hour fast. Definitely get Dr. Mindy Pelz's book, or you can watch, we should link on the show notes, we should link on the show notes, the Diary of a CEO interview that she just did, which is what I sent to you. We should link that because it's a 2-hour podcast. She goes into all of the stuff that we're talking about. And what I want to say is that I'm definitely seeing the results of following that protocol. And I feel better than I have since starting perimenopause. It's only been 5 years. I feel better now than I have since I started perimenopause over 5 years ago.
I have so many questions I want to ask you. I know you don't want to share like the full protocol of what you're doing because you want it to be tried and true and you want to make sure you're giving accurate information, but I just want to ask you, well, what does your week look like? When are you fasting? Are you intermittent fasting? Yes, I'm also big fan of Dr. Mindy, and I'm obsessed. I've like bought all of her books. I pre-ordered it's kind of like not a cookbook. She includes recipes with her book that's coming out.
Yes.
In conjunction with Fast Like a Girl. And what I found just so helpful and uplifting is this, something that I realized more recently in life, I'd say within the past year, is that I was trying intermittent fasting, and all of that research is done on men. All of this research that I've been listening to about fasting, because I've been studying this for a couple of years now, but I've always felt really scared to try anything longer than what an intermittent fast would be, which is typically like a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour, sometimes 10-hour feeding window. And that to me was really, really hard. And I just quit it after, I don't know, I'd say like a week. Didn't feel very successful. Didn't feel like I got the results I wanted. And then I listened to this podcast episode that we'll link in the show notes. And I realized, well, that's based on a man's metabolism and a man's healing cycle, which is a 24-hour cycle, versus women, we're on a monthly cycle, and our estrogen and progesterone levels change every couple of weeks based on where we're at in our cycle. Even you and me, Rosie, even though we're, I'm perimenopause, you're menopause, we have a lower level of these hormones cycling, but we still have a cycle, and there's still an appropriate way for women to fast.
Yeah. And you know what I love too about that, just to add this, is her work also inspired me to, even though I'm not getting my period anymore, I'm still following that cycle. And it's so true, because you're still, she talks about it in that interview. You just go with the cycles of the moon. And I'm finding, okay, I'm not getting my cycle anymore, but let's treat my body as if it is. I still want to follow those patterns, because our bodies are still adhering to those patterns, even though you're not having a bleed, So that has been, I have found that the way that I've coordinated behavior, my food, my fasting, my workouts, like everything has completely changed, and following that rhythm has benefited me so much. It really has changed my whole perspective on health even. And I'm a healthy person, and again, we can get into what
I can't hear it.
And we can get into what my idea of healthy is or was at the time, but I will tell you that my view and my perception of health has completely changed.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
The other thing that this brought up for me too is this idea of being really scared to be that hungry.
Oh, yes.
And never having tried anything longer than I think the longest I fasted before this round. Right now I'm doing a 36-hour fast. I'm on hour 28, 29.
Surpassed the 24 hours.
Yeah. And I feel great. Like I feel, Rosie and I were texting the other day, and she's like, I'm firing on all cylinders when you were in the middle of the fast.
Yeah.
And I feel very clear. I mean, I went for a run this morning, kind of apropos of nothing. I just felt inspired to run. My body felt really light. So it's really cool to be able to tap in and I think listen more clearly to what my body feels when it feels it, because it's not being bogged down by trying to digest this food that I'm constantly putting in my mouth. And I'm somebody who is constantly eating. I don't think I've ever skipped a meal in my life. I mean, I'm a good eater.
She likes her food.
I like my food. So doing this has been really scary. I think just initially taking that step to decide, because there's that level of like, what if you get nauseous? What if you're uncomfortable? What if you have those gnawing hunger pains?
Yes.
You know, what are you going to do in those moments where you're coming face to face with this real discomfort and legitimate fear, I think, that so many of us have, but we're not really willing to look at, because in our modern day society, we're really used to being comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something that Mindy talks about as well.
Yeah. And here's my thing with that. And I want to just, as you say, we'll pull on that thread for a little bit, because I find it a very important point. This idea of discomfort. And Jeff Krasnow, when we had Jeff on the show, he talked about it. And truly, truly, from a spiritual perspective, going into this, you hear about, fasting has been around since the beginning of time, like back the, Paleolithic men and women, they would go days without eating, right? Because they're hunting. And so there is a lot of efficacy around that. But I think now in our modern day, we avoid discomfort like the plague. Nothing in our life currently in 2024 is built for discomfort. Everything is built for ease, not for discomfort. And I think it's so vital for our humanness to encounter a little bit of discomfort sometimes. And I think, for people, and look, again, I'm not a doctor, the discomfort of hunger is something that I feel like is probably one of the hardest things that some people will have to encounter. And for others, it's not that challenging. But it is a really great way to start to sort of tiptoe towards this edge that we all have, because we don't like to feel discomfort. Your stomach is growling and you're just like, I want to eat, or I've been working all day, I haven't been paying attention. And then that's, for me, I'm speaking for myself, that's when I would go reach for snacks, or I would go reach for the easiest, like a spoonful of peanut butter, and then I want a banana, and then it's like, oh, I want some chips. I'm, instead of reaching for nutrient dense, I'm not, after a long day, or I've been recording all day, I'm not going to go into my fridge and reach for broccoli. Like, I want something sweet, I want something delicious, and I want something fast. And so encountering that feeling of discomfort, and really going into your mind, going into those thought patterns, or as Dr. Shepherd calls it, as Dr. Shepherd would say, our behavior, right? We have to modify our behaviors. If I know that that's something that I do often, how can I avoid that? It's like, okay, well, I can cut up some cucumbers or some, broccoli. I can have a little bit of hummus, like create a system where you're not, the stuff that's going to spike your insulin levels, and then, take you into this other offset of hormones that can sometimes create weight gain. I'm speaking specifically to my situation of choices that I was making, but just coming back to this idea of discomfort, I feel like for me, in my health journey, I'll call it, from, when I was growing up, in East LA, and having panic attacks and dealing with anxiety and depression, like coming to this place where everything that I've learned about health, I have to be able to practice in a different way, because everything changes. Your body changes, what you need changes. I could, train for a marathon in my 20s and eat whatever I wanted and still, maintain my weight and be fine, and things didn't change or shift. But the minute that, I got into my mid-30s and perimenopause came, it's like, oh, wait, hold on, what is happening? I don't understand, and it's almost like it's an opportunity to reset, to go into that area of discomfort. When I was in high school, like, I remember graduating, at 17 and on depression medication, on anxiety medication, and on the McDonald's diet. I was so over. I was almost like 200 pounds, and for me, for my body, it was just really uncomfortable, right? I was just inflamed and I didn't feel good, right? And so I remember at that time having that shift similar to what happened at the beginning of this year, very similar, that same feeling of something's not working. I don't feel good. I need to figure out what's going on because nobody is going to come save me. Like, I'm going to have to save myself, right? And so we forget how powerful we are in the choices that we make. We're making choices every day, every second of the day. We're making choices the minute you pick up that phone and you're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, right? We make so many choices throughout the day, and some of them are on autopilot. So this is a really great opportunity to examine what your choices are. And then coming back to what I was saying about the discomfort, it's like, and it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing to kind of, it doesn't even have to be around fasting. I do this all the time with different things in my life just to make sure that I'm not falling in, because there's a level of, if I always have to be comfortable, then for me, there's a level of stagnancy there, which means I'm not growing, which means I'm not learning, which means I'm kind of stuck, I guess.
Yeah.
And that doesn't ever feel good. And so I'll do little tests in my life, even outside of the realm of food and fasting, with like air conditioning. We literally just got air conditioning because we've lived in the Pacific Northwest, and most houses up here typically don't have them if they're older homes. And we literally I held out as long as I could, but we got air conditioning last year. And I still play around with these thresholds of being able to regulate my temperature without turning that on. Can I stand the discomfort of being hot? Can I stand the discomfort of being cold? Because your body will self-regulate if you give it half a chance, just like your body will heal itself if you give it half a chance. And then the other thing that you touched on that I wanted to reiterate is having systems in place. Something James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits, always talks about is, it's great to have goals. Goals are important, but we don't rise to, this is, I believe, a direct quote. I hope I'm getting it right. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our habits. So yes, have goals, but also make sure that you have systems in place to support that. And you don't have to do this by yourself. Tell a friend, even just saying it out loud. Hey, Rosie, I'm doing this 36-hour fast. Rosie doesn't have to do it with me, but it gives me a level of accountability. It gives me a level of like, oh, I said this thing to Rosie and now I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But it is nice when you have somebody doing it with you.
It is. It really is. She's not lying. It really does. It's always better together. That is the truth.
Yeah. It just makes it easier. You feel like you're not alone.
Here's the thing. I feel like if people are interested in this journey that we're on, they'll let us know. So please email us, tell us, tag us, DM us, let us know what your thoughts are on this process. Obviously, Tessa and I are on a little journey together, separately but together, because it's always better together. And we'll keep you all posted, and always so honored and privileged to be able to share this information here with everyone and with you, Tessa. It really is nice to have the support of a community.
It's important. Seek it, find it, create it, build it. It's important.
See it, be it, live it.
Ooh, I like that. Let's make t-shirts.
I know, right? Merch. We need merch.
Yeah. I love my Radically Love sweatshirt.
I know. We got to get those. We got to get more of those out.
I think people would really like them.
I don't know. They can tell us. If you want a Radically Loved sweater, let us.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review on your platform of choice. Also, check us out on Rosie's amazing YouTube channel. You can see our faces and all the fun things that come along with the voices we make on the YouTube channel. And share this episode out with a friend. You know, there's always somebody that you're like, I bet my friend blah, blah, blah would benefit from this. So share.
Right. Share the love. Sharing is caring. Thanks, everyone.
Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to the Radically Love podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps. Also, don't forget to check out the Mindful Love Hub on Substack. This episode was produced by Tessa, Tovar, music by DJ Taz Rashid.